Okay, stand by. Y televidente, Facebook vidente, no está vivo y directo para lo que se trata el programa AVE, que es info musical. Nós temos programa sumamente interessante para AVE. Nós também conversar com o senhor Lars Althaus. Por certo, me tenho que mencionar também com o Lars Althaus. Para prometer que também conversar com a prensa aqui na Antillas. Assim, me hope you Mr. Lars, welcome to the program. One more time, many thanks for the honor as the first media that's going to conduct an interview with you with regard to your professionalism. Welcome to the program. Good morning, Lars.
Bon dia, good morning. Thank you very much.
Yes, to begin, Mr. Lars Althaus, to give an explanation about your professional background, please. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I'm a forensic medical specialist, or some other people call it forensic pathologist. I'm a normal doctor, and after I finished university, I became a forensic medical specialist. So this is, in Germany, we have a different system. So in the Netherlands, you have to be a normal clinical pathologist first, and then you can make a training to do forensic cases. In Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and I'm from Germany, it's a little bit different. There you can directly become a forensic medical specialist. So it includes, of course, 1 year of clinical pathology, but the main thing is to do criminalistic things and only working for the police and the prosecutor's office.
Okay, Mr. Lars, so we are talking about how many years of study that you've done total?
Yeah, I had to do a normal time at university to become a normal doctor. I was around 7 years, and then it's a 5 years period to become a forensic specialist. And I'm busy in this field now since 23 years, something like this.
Correct. So after you finish your work, your first work experience, Lars, was where?
My first work experience was, of course, in the hospital during the time at university. Then I was busy at an ambulance service at the fire department in Germany. And then I started my career at the University of Essen in Germany as a student doctor at the Institute for Forensic Medicine for 6 years and doing a lot of forensic things. And then it ended with a diploma. And then I became in 2010, in 2004, I became head of the Department of Forensic Medicine in Duisburg in Germany, and head of this department until I arrived in Curacao in 2016.
Okay, your work experience before coming to the Antilles in Germany, what was the worst case scenario that you handled as a pathologist, Lars?
Oh, we had different really bad cases. For example, in 2010, the Love Parade disaster, the stampede during a music festival with 21 dead young people, and more than 600 people have been injured during this disaster. We had mafia killing in 2007 with 6 dead mafiosi.
What was that? Wow, mafia thing.
This was
That's
very special case because we didn't know much about the mafia, only what we saw in television and the cinema. And from 1 minute to another, we have been confronted with this field. And the next years after this incident, we learned a lot about mafia structures in Europe, in Germany, and all over the world. But of course, there have been some more really tragic cases. especially when kids are involved. These cases are always terrible when people kill kids or kids are killed by accidents. These are really bad things. Yeah.
Yeah, Lars, when you finish such investigations as a pathologist, you're gonna go in your room to sleep. Can Lars Althaus sleep after such a horrifying crime scene, Lars?
It depends. After so many years, yeah, you learned to handle these things, and you can divide between private and work. This you have to do. If this is not possible, you cannot do such kind of work. But of course, there are always cases where you are thinking about and where the night is not as well as normal, of course.
Correct. Okay, Lars, with regard to the pathologist thing, you work for the ADC, correct? Analytics Diagnosis Center.
Exactly.
Okay. What are your works next to the thing of crime scenes? What are your specific works, the tests that you do for ADC?
Yeah, I'm only doing the forensic things for Curacao and the other 5 islands of the former Netherlands Antilles. So the main thing is doing autopsies, mainly forensic autopsies, but of course I support my clinical colleagues to do clinical autopsies too. Mostly in Curacao and St. Martin. These are the most busy places where I am, but it's not only dealing with dead persons, with dead victims. It's we have when I came to Curacao in 2016, I introduced the so-called German system. This means that it's different to the Netherlands. The German system means that the forensic specialists is busy with everything that is involved in a crime. So it's also examining living people, in some cases offenders, victims or surviving victims of crimes. It can be sexual abuse, it can be interpretation of wounds, it's alcohol, it's toxicology, and every time working very close together with the police and the Openbaar Ministerie. So yeah, there's always something to do. I'm 24 hours on call. So if something happens, I go to every crime scene, I go to every severe traffic accident, I go to the hospital to examine patients. It's also together with the Inspektie für Volksgesundheit, investigating possible medical mistakes, yeah, with the treatment right, with the diagnosis right. So it's everything where justice meets medicine. Yeah, this is where I have to do my work.
Yes, Lars, I can imagine myself. You are an expert if we talk about blood issues, no? Blood issues, blood tissues, how a person gets cancer also. You can diagnose it, correct? That's also your capabilities.
No, I'm not doing clinical pathology. Of course, I
That's a crime.
histology, I can diagnose a heart infarction under the microscope or
Okay.
lung inflammation, but for example, tumor diagnosis, this is
Okay.
a field for my clinical colleagues. So let me say it like this. When I find a tumor, I stop my work and my clinical colleagues go further
Okay.
out what is it exactly.
Okay. Lars, with regard to a crime scene, okay, there is a crime happening. It happened in Curacao. They call Lars. You come at the scene. What is the most? There is a procedure that you have. What are the most important things at the crime scene to collect for investigation, Lars?
Yeah. First of all, it's teamwork. I do everything together with the police. When I come to a crime scene, I talk to the colleagues of the technische Recherche, Team Forensische Opsporing, and then we see how we should proceed. Every case is a little bit different. We have to have a strategy to deal with every special case. For me, the
But
most
you guide, sorry, you guide the crime scene, correct? You give
No. That's no.
Okay.
The police is responsible, and I assist with everything that's medical. Most important part is, and for me, it's a elementary thing we have in Germany, that a pathologist who will do the autopsy later on a victim has to know the crime scene very exactly, because we don't do only we will not only find the of death. It's much more. It's a reconstruction of the crime. What happened exactly? Where could the offender be located? How are the blood patterns? So we should be able to reconstruct the whole crime. And so I have to know the blood pattern at the crime scene. I have to know where are bullets, where are bullet shells, how is the whole place configured. This is very important. And in some cases, we have to find out, okay, if it's a shooting case, it's easy, let me to tell it like this. But the complicated cases are these cases where it's not clear if it's crime or not. So imagine you find, for example, a dead tourist in a hotel room. So we have to find out, is it a natural death? Is it maybe a suicide by intoxication? Or is it a hidden crime, a crime that you will not see for the first moment? Is it a staged crime, that somebody was staging something that didn't really happen? For example, husband killed his wife and staged it as a natural death or a robbery by another person, these things. So you have to do a very good investigation on every crime. And in these cases, my most important part can be to estimate the time of death. How long or when did the person die?
Is that easy?
In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. We do it with the with electrical things. We put electrical needles in the mimic muscles to see if there's still a reaction. We can tell something about the time since death. We take the temperature of the body. We look on the stiffness of the body, on the liveries, the Flecken. So there's it can be complicated, but it's very important. Think on the alibi of a suspect. Was somebody who is suspect in the case able to do it, or was he at that time in another place? This is a very special field, and it can be one of the most important things I have to do at a crime scene.
When the crime scene has happened, the police is at the crime scene. The prosecutor office call you, listen, Lars, we moeten deze lichaam in beslag nemen. And then you are the responsible for the body, correct? On behalf of the prosecutor's office.
Yes, when something happens, police calls me, the Meldkamer, and then I go to the crime scene immediately. But the prosecutor's office, of course, is responsible for the whole case, and we take the decision together with the police and the OM to confiscate the body. And at the moment the body arrives at ADC, we are responsible what happens next.
And the majority of hours that you work after a crime scene, Lars, how many hours are we talking about working at the crime scene till finishing the work with regard to that crime? How many hours, Lars?
It's
depends. Incredible. Huh?
It depends on every case. Look, it's like autopsies, and the forensic autopsy can take, if it's easy, it's a natural cause of death, maybe a heart infarction. Autopsy can be finished after 1.5 hours, and my longest autopsy was more than 11 hours. And it's the same with crime scenes. You have very easy crime scenes, and you have crime scenes where you can work the whole day. That's very difficult to say.
When doing the autopsy, Lars, you're doing the autopsy you alone. Nobody can be with you in the room when you are busy with the body.
No, I have 2 assistants.
Okay.
Assist me. And the police is always present to take evidence, to make photos, to take fingerprints, to take, for example, bullets. We always do it together with a team of the police in the autopsy room.
Correct. Okay, after finishing your autopsy, Lars, you must make a final report to the prosecutor's office, or what's the procedure?
Exactly. After the autopsy, I write an extensive report about all findings, positive and negative. In some cases, it's very important also to mention what we couldn't see. So summary reports are really quite long, and we do it with graphics, with 3D reconstruction, especially in shooting cases. And I try to finish it as soon as possible, that the police and the OM have a tool to go on with the knowledge we got from the autopsy.
And Lars, you're arriving at the crime scene. There's a shooting place that took place. 2 bodies are dead, but you have the rain factor. Can the rain disturb so you can do your job to the best of your knowledge?
Yeah, without rain, it's always better because, of course, rain can damage our traces. Rain can have a big influence of blood pattern. Rain can wash away DNA patterns. So, of course, without rain, it's always better. Rain
Did
is
you got a problem?
Our friend as a
Yes,
crime scene.
correct. Did you got a problem when you have rain, or you could solve it although there was rain at the crime scene when Lars arrived at the crime scene?
Sorry, I couldn't understand.
So although it has rain, did you have a problem with one case or no problem with no case, although it rained after you arrived at the crime scene, do your work?
I can't remember a case where rain it's impossible to solve a case. It's not nice, but we always could find something. Although I cannot remember a case where rain destroyed our work. No.
Correct. Okay, at the autopsy, back to the autopsy, Mr. Lars. You talked about 11 hours. Why did it last so many hours for a corpse to finish your job?
Yeah, this was a very special case where a young satanic couple are praying to Satan, to the devil, did a very bad killing on a friend of them, and they used a lot of weapons. They used knives to write strange signs in the skin. They burned him. So they did everything you can do to a body, and we have to describe every single injury, the size, the pattern, the localization. We have to measure it out. We have to make photos. And if you have a lot of injuries, you have a lot to describe, and then it takes a lot of time. And you also have to try to find out the chronological order of the injuries. What was first? What was last? Was he still alive? Was he already dead? And this can be very, very complicated.
There was a case, Lars, I remembered at Campo Alegre. They shot down a couple of guys. The prosecutor's office asked for life sentence. The judge set them free, and now they are after them to find them because they are the persons who did the crime. And you also did that, correct? The 3 guys, huh? I remember. The Campo Alegre,
in 2016,
yeah, 16. How was the case, Lars? Wow.
It was one of my first cases after arriving in Curacao. And of course, we had shootings in Germany, but not as much as this was my first special experience with more than one victim at a shooting. But after that, there have been some more. Yeah.
In Curacao, you have a lot of work, Lars, a lot of shooting, and you are the only one.
I'm the only one. The amount of work changes very much. It's I always compare it with the fire department. There are very quiet periods, and then it starts like crazy, and you don't know where to start. But I think in now more than 5 years in Curacao, I saw more shooting cases than in Germany in almost 20 years. Yeah, that's right. Shooting is very common, unfortunately.
Welcome. And also with knives, also scenario with knives.
We have,
Okay.
yeah. We
If we compare, Lars, somebody was died by a knife or by a bullet. There is a big difference when doing the investigation.
Not really. The investigation at the crime scene is almost the same, with the difference that you have to find bullets and bullet shells at the crime scene. And in the autopsy, it's almost the same procedure, with the difference that you have to find every single bullet during the autopsy. And yeah, of course, in stabbing cases, you don't have to look for bullets.
Correct. Mr. Lars, is it also, het is ook zo dat je in de rechtbank naar voren moet schijnen if the judge says, I want Lars in the court to say something, or it never happened in Curacao when working as a pathologist, Lars?
Yeah, here it's very rare. It happens in some cases when the judge had more questions, or some questions rised up during the trial. So I went to the court here and also on the other islands, but it's not so common like in Germany, where the law says I have to present every single case in the courtroom. So in Germany, I had to go to the court almost every day. So
you must go. Okay.
I have to go. It's the justice system in Netherlands and in Germany is really different. In Netherlands, it's paper-based, and in Germany, everything the police or the OM or somebody put on paper has to be presented personally in the courtroom. So when I write a report, it's nice. It's nice to prepare the trial in Germany, but you have to give your statement personally to the judge. And every witness has to give his statement again to the judge. This is the big difference between these two systems. So here, yeah, it happened sometimes. In Germany, it was the rule that I had to present every single case in the courtroom.
Yes. Mr. Lars, at the crime scene, you have families of the person who died. They approach you to tell you something, but if they approach you, you are not the person to answer or to get information. You're gonna refer them to the police, or you can handle.
No, I refer them to the police, of course, because they have to take it, they have to write it, they have to document it. I'm not the person to receive these information. After an autopsy, when the OM gives or agrees to it, of course, it's possible to talk to the families and give them some information if they have questions. But this depends if the OM agrees to this. Especially in after forensic autopsy of non-killing cases. Other cases, we do a lot of autopsies, forensic autopsies, with natural deaths. So we have to find out when a person dies unexpected and suddenly. This is a forensic case normally, because we are, if you don't have a cause of death, you cannot state a natural cause of death. So we do a lot of autopsies on sudden unexpected death, and of course the family have questions, and normally after the autopsy I talk to the families and explain what happens, and sometimes it has consequences for the families. For example, if we can find something with the genetic factor, yeah, there are some heart diseases that you can follow in the whole family, then it's very important to inform the family that, for example, the brother of a disease or something like that could have the same problems and could and should visit a doctor. This is common, but not at the crime scene. At the crime scene, I don't talk to families. I only talk to the victim and see what happens.
Correct. Lars, you have a lot of experience as a pathologist. What does the theory say about a person that has been killed by a knife? After how many minutes or hours the person dies at the scene? Please.
It depends absolutely which organ or which blood vessel has been hit. Most people or some people survive without any further damage, and some people, if you get a knife in your brain or in your heart or in your aorta, you will die within seconds or minutes. So this is really depending on which structure has been hit.
By the bullet situation, the same.
Exactly the same.
The same. It's very cruel. There was a case loss that you remember that hit you hard as a professional, although you separate private and work, that you say on Curacao till the day of today, wow, that was the case for me as a challenge, as a professional pathologist, Lars?
You mean a case in Curacao?
In Curacao, yeah, that happened.
In Curacao, there have been several cases when, yeah, the same like Germany, when kids are involved, for example, in traffic accidents, and when you have a high number of victims. Although I can remember we had cases with 5 or 6 people killed in one incident. These are cases where these cases are really special, and you have to think about it for a longer time. Yeah.
And you also deal with sexual abuse, correct? Of women.
Yeah, together with the police doctor who does the special examinations, but the other injuries, yeah, this is something for us. In Germany, it's different because we have specialists for these things, gynecologists who do the examinations. So this is the reason why these special examinations are here done by the police doctor, but they can consult me and I give my opinion on the findings.
Yes, we have the situation right now, as you know, Lars, more than 1 year and 2 months, the COVID situation. Is it legal if a family requests for an autopsy to know for sure that their dear died of COVID or the vaccine? Is it possible to do an autopsy?
It wasn't possible until now because we don't have a high safety autopsy room here, and we decided together with the clinical colleagues that it was too dangerous before vaccination. Because yeah, I'm the only one, I have only 2 colleagues, so the danger is too high, or it was too high. Now we will take a new decision the next days how we proceed with these cases. But to be honest, the COVID cases, that case, they are so very well documented, clinically documented. You have CT scans, you have the oxygen in the blood measurements. So these cases are so well documented that in my eyes, it doesn't make, in most cases, it doesn't make much sense to ask, did the person really die due to COVID? Because there is, in most cases, that's not the question. It was extremely important to do autopsies on COVID patients in specialized labs in Germany. My colleagues did it, not to find out if a patient really died due to COVID, but what happens in these patients. Why do they die? Why do some patients die and some not? So we learned a lot about COVID in the last year, what happens in the body. This was really very, very important. But the question, yeah, did he really die due to COVID? We had these questions here, and when you look on the cases, there is there is no doubt what happened based on the clinical facts you have.
You know what? You know why I asked you, Lars? Because I know 2 persons in Curacao. I know their family. They told me one of the bodies, he was diabetic, type 2. He took the first vaccine. After 3 days, their dear member died of the vaccine. So it's something, yeah, it's ticklish, huh? Something very,
Okay, I cannot comment
yeah, I know it.
on ongoing cases or special cases. I only can talk in general. I never heard about such a case here. And of course, people can die with
Yeah,
without COVID, with vaccination, without vaccination. Of course, you have to see what was the cause of death. But for me, vaccination is safe and it's important. And I know that there are some rumors about people who died due to vaccination, but all these cases I heard about it are fake news. And there are a lot of bad fake news in the social media. That's something I can assure you. Yeah.
correct. So at the moment, Lars, there is no request. So no people, nobody can do a request for an autopsy about COVID in Curacao.
Let us decide the next days. We are discussing it now. We see what we can do now when we are vaccinated, but there's no decision yet, and it's not my part to decide it. It's mostly the clinical part of my clinical colleagues who have to decide about it.
Correct. Lars, about medical malpractices. You have a lot of cases with regard to medical malpractices?
I would not say a lot of cases. You have to differentiate real cases where something went wrong, but you have always a lot of cases where patients, or mostly families of patients, complain, and then to see, is it true or is it not true? And you have much more complaints than true cases. In Germany, it was about 30% of my work. Most of them, there was no medical mistake, but a lot of complaint. It's and here it's less, but yeah, it's sometimes I have cases. Yeah.
And there are cases that you write your final report and you send it for the department.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And they take the final decision.
I can give an advice. I give my opinion.
Okay.
But I'm not the one who says, okay, this is a medical mistake or not. This is, I only have to find out what happened, especially during autopsy. I can look into the medical records. But at the end, yeah, I'm not a judge, and I only can give my opinion or my advice.
In Curacao, you have the Tuchtcollege, correct? They are the court of law for the medicine area, correct? Tuchtcollege.
We have the Inspectie voor Volksgezondheid.
Inspectie van Volksgezondheid.
They are examining.
He's a person who takes a final decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you work with him. He can call you back for more information than to take the final decision.
Of course, we have a very good contact to discuss these cases. Yeah, indeed.
Correct. If there is something that happened with a doctor and the inspector says, you know what, this doctor cannot continue working, can the doctor appeal to the decision of the inspector, Lars?
I'm not a lawyer, but
okay,
I think so. You can appeal to everything, and yeah. But this is really something I don't know. I never heard of such a case, but I'm sure when I think on the German laws, yeah, you can try. If you think you are in the right and somebody did something wrong, yeah, you can complain, but that's normal everywhere, I think.
Okay. Lars, with regard to the blood groups that we have, A, B, D, B, A, B, why there is a lot of blood groups? It's very strange. People ask, hello, we have one red blood, but why do we have a lot of blood groups? Can you explain that, please, Lars?
I don't know why nature had this idea. I don't know. It is like it is. it made forensic work much easier in the time before we got the DNA analysis. I think it's a reason of evolution, but why it really happened at the moment, I have no idea. I think you can Google it, but I don't know. That's not my
correct
experience.
Correct. Lars, what is the best blood group to work with? The easiest that you can solve a case, something.
The blood groups for me doesn't matter. It's completely. There's no difference for me between blood groups. There is a difference in blood groups when you need an operation, because 0 is the most common blood group, and if you need a blood donor, it's easier to get 0. That's the only thing that I would say. If we have 0, you are lucky, because then it's easier to get blood if you need it. But for forensic purposes, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Like, I am A positive, so my father's A positive, my brother's A positive, and you don't have a lot of A in the world. Yes or no, Lars? Depends, huh?
I don't have the numbers in my head, because it doesn't have any consequences. A is not the most common.
Correct.
That's true.
Yes, Lars, as a professional.
And one more thing. There is an indication, it's not for sure yet, but interesting, because you asked me for COVID. There is an indication that people who have blood group A could have more problems with COVID. The symptomatic could be related to blood groups, and it looks, there are some scientific reports that people with blood group A have more symptoms of COVID. That's something interesting, but it's not sure yet, and nobody knows why.
Thanks God, I'm healthy. Yeah, thanks God, that's
Thanks
important.
God, danke Dios.
Yeah. Lars, when do you go to vacation? Because you have your right to vacation. When you go on vacation, who else gonna take your place?
We always try to find a replacement. We have a retired colleague in Aruba, and but we also try to get colleagues from Europe to replace me.
Okay. You rarely travel to St. Martin, or you just get the information that you work it on Curacao with the autopsy?
Sorry?
Or they do it in St. Martin? In St. Martin, they have a pathologist? No. You do the work for.
Yeah.
But you must go to St. Martin then.
Exactly.
You must go to St. Martin. But you're traveling a lot to St. Martin or not?
Yeah. During the COVID time now, of course, it was sometimes impossible. It was more quiet in St. Martin, but we had periods where we went to St. Martin, every week or every 2 weeks. So it depends. It changes. But St. Martin is also a place where we have a lot of work normally.
Yes. For the COVID situation, you just did your work for Curacao because you live in Curacao.
Exactly.
But how was you have a lot of work during the COVID situation? Yes, I imagine.
Yeah, I tried to support the colleagues who have been busy with COVID, but to be honest, the COVID time, especially with curfew, Abendclock, was a very quiet period for me. Yeah, much more quiet than normal.
You could rest, so no problem.
Yeah.
Thanks God. Lars, many thanks for the interview. It's the first time you're giving an interview. I appreciate it was a person who's the first one who interviewed you. Your last words for the people of Bonaire. We have a lot of people listening, Curacao, Aruba, St. Martin. What are your last words, Lars, for everybody?
My last words are, please take the vaccination. Go and get vaccinated. It's really important. It's the only way to get out of this shit. And you can trust it. And there are still a lot of people without vaccination. This is really my message of the day. Please take it, and then we can go back to normal life. COVID is very, very dangerous. Take the vaccination.
Correct. When I'm Curacao, we're gonna take some coffee and do some bread.
Graag.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Okay.
All the best.
All the best for you.
Pues, thank you, Lars. Ese pues
Okay.
oyente Facebook vidente, nos YouTubers ang dami. Ese dapat ang Sr. Lars Althaus. Eta anatom patolog pa is ng best kumuta may St. Martin, Aruba, ita may Corso. Thank you na Lars, Turcos Bong. Take it easy.
You too.